We have a new Master Duel ban list, so let's talk about it, because this also kind of confirms some new cards we will be getting soon. So this is an emergency ban list, and right here, let's scroll down, we only have 2 changes. We have Silva, Warlord of Dark World from 3 to 0, and we have Branded Expulsion from 3 to 0. Now you might be thinking, where is Tearlaments? Where is Sprite? Where is Branded? Where are all these decks? And the way I see it, we will still be getting some kind of list soon that, you know, maybe changes some things, but this is more so to fix really toxic issues. Let me explain. So first we have Silva, Warlord of Dark World. What does this card do? If this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, special summon it from the graveyard. Then if this card was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, your opponent returns 2 cards from their hand to the bottom of their deck. Now Dark Worlds have cards that make you discard as if it's your opponent making you discard with Cerulli. So the whole strategy behind Dark World is literally to hand loop your opponent, meaning just have them send back their entire hand to the deck and end the game right there. You just play with yourself. You are literally masturbating, and then your opponent just has to scoop. You only get to play with like 1 card or 2 cards. So that is a extremely toxic win condition, and no one likes to play against that, because the only way to stop it is to really hand trap it into the ground with maybe like a Droll or a really well-timed Ash, maybe a really well-timed Impermanence on the Dugares. And sometimes that's not even enough, because the choke points of this deck are just random. Like sometimes they just have more gas to push through that, and sometimes they don't. So the entire Dark World game right now, at least as long as Silva is legal, is just hope I draw the hand trap and hope that the hand trap actually does something this time. If not, I auto lose. That's Dark World. It's really, really cringe, despite it actually not being a top tier deck. It auto loses to Droll, it auto loses to Shifter. And so while this deck isn't top tier, it's also just never a healthy way to play the game, at least when you're hand looping. Now I have to say this is a TCG specific thing. In Master Duel so far, while you can hand loop, the deck was just not consistent enough yet. It wasn't really doing it that properly just yet. But what this hit does signal is that we should be getting the new Dark World support. Dark World in the TCG and OCG got a structure deck with a bunch of new support, including an Omni Negate fusion, well, a somewhat Omni Negate really, and some good spells and so forth. Basically made the deck a whole lot better. And so if they are hitting that right now, what they're really signaling is, hey, it's coming. So I expect in the next set, or maybe with a new structure deck, some type of new release to bring these new Dark World cards. Now, is the deck still good without Silva? I don't know. Without a hand loop, the Dark Worlds basically lost their primary win condition so far, but Dark Worlds are endless gas. It is technically possible for Dark Worlds to build any board. You think, oh, I want to have this on my board, and this on my board, and this on my board, and this on my board. Dark Worlds can probably do it. They just have infinite bodies to put onto the board. Danger Dark World, you can fill every single zone on your board with cards, because of like how much gas the deck has. So while hand looping obviously is like the strongest thing they had, it's definitely possible, I think, to still make a crazy Dark World combo deck. But with that being said, it has not been a major competitive deck so far. It did top the YCS, the 3v3 YCS, or maybe the one after a few months ago. So it's not unplayable or anything like that, but it's definitely not a top tier deck. So now I understand some Dark World players will be like, oh, but they hit it and it's not even that great, blah, blah. But also understand, like, the only way Dark World wins is never, ever, ever letting your opponent play a single card. It's not particularly interactive, so I understand why it happened. I just hope that Dark World can put up some, you know, other really cool board. The other hit is Branded Expulsion. Now, I showed the combo on this channel a few weeks ago, where Branded can basically puppet lock your opponent, and so you special summon a Gimmick Puppet Nightmare to your opponent's side of the field, and then they can't play the game. It just says your opponent can no longer special summon, GG, no re. Only Fluon the Reese doesn't care about being puppet locked. All the other decks just auto lose to this card. And so while it is like a semi-brick in your deck, and then the puppet is a brick in your deck, it's still worth just always auto winning when you go first, unless you get hand trapped to death. So I understand both of these hits, honestly. Like, this is like an emergency ban list where they're like, okay, let's just remove some toxic stuff from the game, some auto wins. Like hand looping, cringe, not being able to play play, cringe, I understand, and overall it's pretty good. Even without Expulsion, Branded is still putting up a ridiculously strong board. If Branded Fusion resolves and you do full combo, you're probably winning anyway. It's just that if your opponent is a good player with a good hand and so forth, they can still at least maneuver and potentially outskill you. So I like that. Puppet Lock was just a GG no re, but without Puppet, there's some back and forth, which I really like. And again, Dark World, you can still put up a crazy board. It's just that your opponent will at least have cards and at least pretend like they can play through your 1 billion negates. So that is all. Hope you found this interesting. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you soon. Ciao.